we will be exploring the journey into hell as the path to self-knowledge. No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. So, this is hell. I would never have believed it. You remember all we were told about the torture chambers, the fire and the brimstone, the burning maw, old wives' tales. There's no need for red-hot pokers.
Hell is other people.
We're all in limbo. We're all struggling alone in the human condition. The issue is not to have problems, but to fail to be aware of them and fail to confront them. Human beings can reach heaven only through hell. The journey through hell cannot be omitted. Hell provides a vital wisdom. Without suffering, one cannot get to heaven. The agony, the horror, the sadness are a necessary prelude to self-realization and a purity of heart. No light, but rather darkness visible, served only to discover sights of woe, regions of sorrow, doleful shades, where peace and rest can never dwell, hope never comes that comes to all, but torture without end still urges, and a fiery deluge, fed with ever-burning sulfur, unconsumed. It is hopelessness even more than pain that crushes the soul. He describes a rebellion in heaven prior to the creation of Adam and Eve and the expulsion of Lucifer and the fallen angels to hell. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. But everyone's story on the path to self-knowledge and spiritual awakening, which begins by descending into hell, is the ultimate expression of a midlife crisis, a critical phase of existential transformation which the ancient Greeks called metanoia, mental transformation. Dante makes you think seriously about your own life, and to make the best of it when your life is dramatically thrown off course. Dante the pilgrim finds himself within a horrible dark forest, for the straightforward path in life had been lost. He says, "I don't know how I got here." Very often we find ourselves in this situation. There are times when we don't recognize how we got where we are. We start out with certain goals we want to achieve, but as time passes, we make small choices and, without realizing it, end up somewhere completely different. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards.
This is what Dante experienced. He's not who he set out to be, and he does not know why that is.
There's no shortcut to self-realization. To will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I find not. For the good that I would, I do not, but the evil which I would not, that I do. But why exactly do people sin? A person might choose to do something bad because he thinks it is good for him. It is often the case that what appears to be good is in fact bad. There must be a distinction between appearance and reality. Hell is an eternal reminder of what we have done. God doesn't send us to hell, we send ourselves to hell. The doors of hell are locked on the inside. Purgatory is like our real world. It is a place of transition. Heaven is above us, and hell is below us. We all have inner work to do. We must strive to lead as virtuous a life as we can. The goal is not perfection, but wholeness.
When we turn away from our self-centered ego, it is like a weight is off our shoulders.
As if we could fly. Angels can fly because they can take themselves lightly. To enter heaven is to become more human than you ever succeeded in being on earth. To enter hell is to be banished from humanity. Throughout the Divine Comedy, we see the constant interplay between the positive and the negative. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. He describes hell not as a place of punishment, but as a place of energy. He writes, "Without contraries is no progression. Attraction and repulsion, reason and energy, love and hate are necessary to human experience. From these contraries spring what the religious call good and evil. Good is the passive that obeys reason, evil is the active springing from energy. Good is heaven, evil is hell." With the conclusion that energy or libido, called evil, arises from the unconscious, hell, and is restricted by reason, called called good, the product of the superego, heaven. Blake imagines himself walking among the fires of hell, delighted with the enjoyments of genius, the devils being the original thinkers and revolutionists. Blake's proverbs are designed to put the individual's heart first, rather than laws. They are designed to energize imagination and human emotional response. Always be ready to speak your mind, and a base man will avoid you. The soul of sweet delight can never be defiled. Blake firmly believed that individuals must be able to freely exercise their imagination in order to construct a reality for themselves. This is what he calls the poetic genius. If there's one true religion for Blake, it is the divine spark of the imagination. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite, for man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. Like dreaming or visioning, mythologizing is a process that takes a whole being to the borderlands of existence, a place beyond which our eyes can barely make out the vastness of a terra incognita. Yet those who decide to venture that far receive a gift to take back with them to the inhabited lands we are familiar with. What appears to be a journey of exile into the unknown is, in fact, a journey of returning home to the depths of the soul. There is only one way, and that is your way. There's only one salvation, and that is your salvation. Why are you looking around for help? Do you believe that help will come from outside? What is to come will be created in you and from you. Hence, look into yourself. Do not compare, do not measure. No other way is like yours. All other ways deceive and tempt you. You must fulfill the way that is in you. Just like Dante had Virgil as a guide, Jung's personal guide was Philemon, a magician and wise old man that represented superior insight, whose words of wisdom was full of the sounds of life. On the other hand, Nietzsche's guide was the prophet Zarathustra, who grows weary of his wisdom after spending 10 years in solitude in the mountains, and speaks thus to the sun: I must descend into the depths, as you do in the evening when you go behind the sea and still bring light to the underworld, you over-rich star. Like you I must go under, go down, as is said by man, to whom I want to descend. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end. What is lovable in man is that he is an overgoing and a downgoing. A point exists at about the 35th year when things begin to change. It is the first moment of the shadow side of life, of the going down to death. It is clear that Dante found this point, and those who have read Zarathustra will know that Nietzsche also discovered it. When this turning point comes, people meet it in several ways. Some turn away from it, others plunge into it, and something important happens to yet others from the outside. If we do not see a thing, fate does it to us. In his late 30s, Jung experienced this midlife existential catastrophe and was overwhelmed with visions. In his hypnagogic state, he plunged into unknown depths, which he later called his confrontation with the unconscious, lasting from 1913 to 1916. Fearing psychosis, Jung kept a loaded revolver in the drawer of his night table in case the visions became unbearable. In the Red Book, Jung speaks of his descent into hell, which should not be understood as an afterlife abode of condemnation, but rather as a present living condition of utter bewilderment, encompassing a momentous existential change. What do you think of the essence of hell? Hell is when the depths come to you with all that you no longer are or are not yet capable of. Hell is when you can no longer attain what you could attain. Hell is when you think and feel and do everything that you know you do not want. Hell is when you know that your having to is also a wanting to, and that you yourself are responsible for it. Hell is when you know that everything serious that you have planned with yourself is also laughable, that everything fine is also brutal, that everything good is also bad, that everything high is also low, and that everything pleasant is also shameful. If you ever have the rare opportunity to speak with the devil, then do not forget to confront him in all seriousness. He is your devil after all. The devil as the adversary is your own other standpoint. He tempts you and sets a stone in your path where you least want it. Taking the devil seriously does not mean going over to his side, or else one becomes the devil. Rather, it means coming to an understanding. Thereby you accept your other standpoint. With that, the devil fundamentally loses ground, and so do you, and that may be well and good. The essence of the devil is that he cannot be captured. The devil seeks to saw off the branch on which you sit. That is useful and protects one from falling asleep, and from the vices that go along with it. The devil is an evil element, but joy, if you run after it, you see that joy also has evil in it, since then you arrive at pleasure, and from pleasure go straight to hell, your own particular hell, which turns out differently for everyone. What Jung initially perceived as a deeply critical period leading him to the brink of madness eventually came to represent the source of the most creative and significant period of his life, the stuff and material for more than one life, as he put it. For Jung, purifying one's vision while traveling through hell involves, first and foremost, the acknowledgement and integration of an evil counterpart through what he calls the shadow. However, while it is within the bounds of possibility for us to recognize the relative evil of our nature, it is a rare and shattering experience to gaze into the face of absolute evil. Whoever fights with monsters should see to it that he does not become one himself. And when you stare for a long time into an abyss, the abyss stares back into you. The descent into hell is a cathartic journey which leads to self-knowledge, self-transformation, and ultimately self-transcendence. It is easy to get into, but very difficult to exit. It epitomizes a process of self-transformation similar to what the alchemists intended with the Negretto phase of spiritual mortification and putrefaction, a dangerous yet healing descent into one's inner underworld. Only in the region of danger can one find the treasure hard to attain. Everything in the human mind belongs to the natural play of opposites, which regulates life. Real self-transformation shall never be complete without man's reconciliation of heaven and hell. He who journeys to hell also becomes hell. Therefore, do not forget from whence you come. The depths are stronger than us, so do not be heroes. Be clever and drop the heroics, since nothing is more dangerous than to play the hero.